So we are looking at chapter 8 right now. Client acquisition. Well, sorry, not actually chapter 8. I forgot. There was one other thing I was going to mention. This is chapter 8 in the 5th edition book. Client acquisitions and how to overcome objections. So this is a little bit of extra sales information that NASM's got out there. You're not actually going to find a lot of these direct definitions in your current textbook, but that's all right. This is like I said, it's kind of extra info, really just here to kind of make us a little better at sales. So 3 terms we're going to get right off the bat here. 3 things that we're going to use, or three terms we're going to use. We've got leads, prospecting, and rapport. Rapport is one that is an important term pretty much for everybody, but like leads and prospecting, right? What prospecting is they are activities that are designed to search for potential consumers or potential leads, right? And it's like, okay, so we use prospecting to find leads. What the heck is a lead? Well, a lead is an individual who has shown a greater than normal level of interest in your personal training services, right? So an example of like prospecting or an example of searching for leads might be working the gym floor, right? Literally walking around the gym floor, handing out towels, asking people if they need assistance, cleaning up the gym, all of like things like that, right? Where you're literally just making a name for yourself. You're just a face in the crowd. You're making sure that everyone is, aware that you are there to help them, right? That's prospecting. Even just like racking weights, right? If you're going around, I used to in a gym. It was actually always a really great way to like warm up. When I would work out at a gym that I worked at, I would go around, and I'm kind of OCD about how like plates are stacked on like a rack. It drives me crazy when like the 45 is sitting on like the 5-pound slot, or like the 25er is just laying on the floor. Like that drives me nuts. And so like I would go around and like reorganize them. Like this is gonna go here. So I'd pull like 3 45-pound plates off and throw them on the floor and put the 25s that are supposed to go. And then eventually, I'd be working on stuff like that. And it led to a lot of conversations. I'd be around, I was always in my work shirt. And I started using that actually as like a brief like warm up, sometimes before my workouts. I'll be honest, it wasn't the greatest warm up, but I did it for a little while because I thought it was kind of cool to multitask. Eventually, it was like, I need to get back into like just something that raises the body temperature. But that's working the gym floor, right? You're really just getting your face out there and making sure like, you don't want to run into a situation where, someone might have like a question, they glance over and they're like, well, clearly that person's in good shape, but like, I don't know if they work here. I don't know if they're an expert. Like, I'm not going to ask them any questions. You want someone approaching you, want them asking you questions. There's also cold calling. Now, cold calling is definitely a lot rarer in our side of the fitness industry than it used to be. Now, if you end up in like membership sales, if you end up in a situation where you're working at a gym selling gym memberships, cold calling will be a little bit more common. You'll end up calling just people in the area. You get these like lists from, I'm sure, just like telemarketing lists. You'll end up reaching out and being like, hey, I'm from the gym down the street. Like, we're offering this special this month. Do you have a gym membership? And cold calling is brutal. Cold calling is rough because like, we all hate getting those freaking telemarketer phone calls, right? Like, hey, we're calling you about your car's extended warranty, or Marriott freaking hotels. Those are the 2 that I get all the freaking time. Side story really quick that is a little inappropriate. But do you guys remember, I don't know if actually we got a pretty young crew here, but does anybody remember when AT&T bought, it was like, I think it was like Dex. It was like they bought like, they like changed their name to like Quest, and then there was Dex, right? And Dex was like a phone book. Do you guys remember them?
I don't remember that one, no.
Yeah, so let me see if I can find it. So it was Quest Dex, and it was like where they were. It was like a company merger, right? And it was a phone book. It was a phone book, but it was also like a phone service, right? So we had these freaking phone books when I was a kid. And, you know, they also sold like, you know, they were the phone company. So they would also try to sell you, you know, a phone line. And they, you know, these telemarketers would always call like during like dinner time or whatever. And my dad would always just curse them out. My dad would just flip out on them, you know, like, and trying to get them to never call again. But one time we were in the middle of dinner, and sure enough, someone from Quest Dex calls, and he's on the line, and this poor woman calls, and she's like, hello, sir, can I speak to who pays your phone bill? And normally my dad would just hang up, and he always says, he's like, I don't know why I didn't, but he was like, ugh. And immediately she can tell he's kind of surly, he's kind of irritable, and so she just launches right, and she's like, so I'm calling from Quest Dex, and my dad interrupts her, and he goes, phone sex. How dare you, ma'am, call me about phone sex? My family and I are having dinner. She's like, no, sir, Quest Dex. She's like, phone sex. How? Ma'am, this is a Christian household. And this poor woman's on the other line, like, no, sir, please. And she's like trying to explain herself. My dad just keeps purposefully not, you know, hearing her. And and they're not allowed to hang up, you know, like they're not allowed to hang up until you like curse at him or do something. And this poor lady is just so exasperated. And finally he's like, please do not call here again. Good day, madam. And then he like hangs up. And my mom and I were like, what just happened? But he thought he loved it. He tells that story all the time whenever he talks about telemarketing. So anyway, that's cold calling. You might end up on the wrong end of that someday. But here's a really cool one. Now, this is also part of your prospecting. And this is what there's a million different terms out there for it, but a lot of times they'll call them a clear up list. And a clear up list is actually a list of people who are in the system. They have memberships to the gym that you train at. And they actually already have training sessions because they purchased those training sessions with another trainer. But because maybe that trainer went out of town for vacation or left entirely, or maybe that trainer just forgot about this client, something happened and this client fell through the cracks. And now they're sitting there with 7 sessions that never got used. And the gym wants you to kind of burn through that list. So this could be one of your very first clients. Now, they already have training sessions. So you're not going to be selling them a new package. You're just going to be training them through, and you're only going to get 7 sessions out of it. So, you know, in terms of like your customer, you know, life cycle, it's not a very long life cycle, right? Like your relationship with them is, you know, pretty short off the bat. But if you do a really good job and they're like, wow, those 7 sessions are really great. And then you're like, hey, you're out of sessions now. Do you want to re-up? Now suddenly you get a brand new client, right? And you had this system built in. I will say the one thing that you got to be cautious with your clear up list, and every gym will have a version of this. Every gym will, you know, your manager will encourage you. They'll show you how to pull it out of the computer, how to print it off, and then, you know, you'll just work your way down the list. Be cautious. Make sure, if you can, hopefully your system has this, you'll be able to look at this person's profile, look at which trainer was training them originally, and make sure that like that person either, you know, doesn't work there anymore or doesn't want that client anymore. Like, make sure you don't want to step on anybody's toes, especially when you're brand new in some gym, right? Now your training manager will not agree with what I just said. They'll say like, I don't care, just get the sessions burned through, you know, because they care about the bottom line. They just want you to kind of work through that. But trust me, you should absolutely make sure that you're you know, running it by whoever, you know, used to train this person. But if you do that, right, you're going to have like a pretty ready list. And trust me, you're going to get support from your training managers, because the way gyms actually like pay themselves is actually very similar to how, for those of you who are thinking about going into private training, this is actually how you should pay yourself as well. My recommendation is to have 3 bank accounts. You have your personal spending account that is just, you know, this is the account you're using every day right now. You have a business account, which is where you basically like, can pay for everything for your business, like a checking account, and then like a savings account. And what I tell people to do is you should always like deposit money into your, business account. And then like, let's say you trained 15 sessions that week, you pull 15 sessions worth of money out of that account and pay yourself weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however you're used to doing it. Do not make the mistake of just depositing your money directly into your spending account, because then like, who knows what's going to happen? What if you run out of training sessions with someone and they don't re-up, and you've already burned through all that money, right? Or if somebody buys like 48 sessions, which is going to be a lot of money, right? Like it's going to be a huge paycheck. You go buy a boat, like, or something. And then all of a sudden, like, hey, like, you got nothing to live on because you're busy training this person, but they're not spending any new money. So like, I really recommend taking any sales that you make, putting it into an account, and then pulling money out of that account into your spending account. It's a much safer way to do your finances. Take it from somebody who started when he was 19 and definitely did not take the time to do any of this and screwed up a whole bunch of times and ended up being like, I don't know, I'm gonna buy groceries this week, like we're back on the college top ramen diet, like cup of noodles. Trust me, it's a much safer way of doing things. What's funny is gyms do the same thing. Gyms actually do the exact same thing. They actually have separate accounts. So if you go to a gym and you buy 10 sessions, it gets deposited into an account. And so the gym is really eager for you as the trainer to burn through those training sessions, because then it gets to move into their spending account. And that's how pretty much every gym actually still does it to this day. That is why gyms have started implementing, there are commission bonuses have always been around. You'll get a bonus for selling lots of training sessions. But nowadays they're starting to implement, they call it a redeeming bonus. And a redeeming bonus is a bonus for working a lot of hours and burning through those sessions. The more sessions you burn through, the more likely you are to get a bonus on that, which is great because it's like you're getting a bonus for essentially like making more money already working. And that's kind of what you want to do in the world of sales. You want to kind of get like a redeeming bonus one month and a commission bonus the next, and you kind of bounce them back and forth between those two. And that's how you're going to kind of maximize your paychecks. So anyway, prospecting, you got to do prospecting in order to generate leads. We need leads in order to like meet new people and get new customers, right? And so that's what we're going to do. Now, whether you are trying to get like a new customer to just come in for a fitness assessment or get them to, actually purchase training because you're in the sales process, it doesn't really matter if you're trying to get someone, to do something, right? You're trying to get them to see your point of view on things. You need to establish a certain level of rapport with these people, right? Rapport is the aspect of a relationship that's characterized by similarity, agreement, or congruity, right? Like either people are, agreeing with you, they're seeing eye to eye with you, right? You're in sync. It's the level of trust someone has in another individual. So this is the most important thing that you can do when it comes to sales. You need to try to generate as much rapport in a client as possible. So let's say you're doing that. Let's say you've maybe gone through like the entire sort of process. You've met with somebody, right? Well, now we also have to talk about like what a point of sale is, right? So a point of sale is a client who has purchased personal training package or a program at the time like they enrolled in like a new membership. So your point of sale is this moment, right? It's this moment that you are going to get this member like in the system and like now they're ready to go, right? When a new member signs up for the gym, they agree to train simultaneously, right? That's a point of sale. Now you have a slightly different version of this. The term that you're often, you don't hear point of sale that often. unless it's actually talking about this version. A lot of times people will say, oh, you need to go into POS, or they'll say you need to, open point of sales. Now, that's where this gets a little bit confusing for people. Again, point of sale is like the moment a client, it's the point of sale, right? Like it's the moment a client's like actually signing up for a membership. But the computer, like the program you're going to run in order to do this, is your POS system. Okay, your POS system is what every gym, if you're working on like a commercial gym, they'll have their own, where they probably paid some company years ago to like write this software. But it's a program that runs all of the gym memberships, right? So when someone signs up for a membership, their information gets entered into the computer and their name gets linked to, one of those little key fobs, right? So then like as they go into the gym and they like check it in, the POS system's running and boop, and it pulls up their name and checks them into the computer and logs the fact that they were there that day. Now, if they have like personal training, that will be attached to their profile. And the number of sessions will be attached to that profile. So your POS system is what runs the entire gym basically. And this is where you will actually do your sales. Now there's other POS systems out there for like smaller gyms. There's like Mind Body Online, for instance, which is a POS system. It's a software where, you can basically book like appointments and stuff. This is probably one that is, I'd say, the most popular. There's definitely other ones out there, but let's see here. Yeah, let's go to the fitness side of things. So you can see like, oh, this is kind of interesting. These are, they also got some studios that are using this. So here's some places near me, right? So if I wanted to, like if I wanted to go to this F45, right, I'd click it. And then, I can see like what their schedule looks like. And I click book and enter all my information. And I can book it online. So I'm running through the POS system from my house, right? But it's going to enter into their program. It's going to update like on their end as well. So that's what the POS system is. Everyone's going to need, it's all going to be a little bit different depending on like where you work, but everyone is going to experience this at some point. You're all going to end up working with some version of a POS system. And it stands for point of sale system, but don't confuse it for what a point of sale is, which is, the moment someone's purchasing training. Now, two other terms that I do want to kind of just like get off the bat as well. There's sort of a difference between like, when you are working the floor and you find like a customer that you've never worked with before, you talk to them and they get interested in training, and then like they sign up for personal training. That is what we call new business. Okay, so new business is a new client who just purchased personal training, but then you also have your re-ups, right? You have your re-signs. And these are existing clients who have decided to continue training and they've purchased like a new package, right? So let's say somebody, is brand new, they bought 12 sessions, right? That would be considered like new business. And then the next month they're like, oh, this was really great. I want to do this again. And they decide to like re-up their membership. That's a re-sign. You want to have a pretty good blend of these two things, it's always good to have new business like coming in. But the reality is, guys, if you have really high like client retention, you're going to end up like signing up your members. They're going to get their memberships. They're going to be really happy working with you, and they're just going to continue working with you. So eventually you end up with like a lot of re-signs. And that's great. Like that's exactly kind of what you want, right? Now, if you are kind of strictly relying on re-signs, it is kind of a situation where you are definitely going to be more relying on redeeming bonuses than you are on commission bonuses, because a lot of times like re-signs, they're going to go, wow, I'm really secure working with you. I'm going to buy a huge package, right? And so they're going to get like 24, 48 sessions, something huge. If somebody gets something like that, that's going to last a really long time. You're definitely not going to get you're going to get a massive commission from that one big sale, but you're not going to get another commission from that person for a while. I'm not saying this is good or bad. This is just how it kind of works, So, don't, we want to have client retention. I mean, getting a, bonus is great and all, but I would much rather have like a steady paycheck than I would have like a really big paycheck one month and a really small one the next. And that's why like I've always focused a lot on making sure that like client retention is what's really, really important to me. I want my clients to be happy and I want to work with them in the long run, because the other thing is like personal training takes time, results are not something that come overnight. And so that's another thing that I kind of want to convey. So everything we've been talking about, right, is we're looking at like this idea of like forecasting, kind of going back to what we talked about yesterday, right? Yesterday, we talked all about forecasting, right? You figure out how much money you want to make per year. You divide that by how much money you want to make per week. Then you figure out how many people, when you talk to them, actually sign up for personal training. That tells you your closing percentage. And finally, you divide your closing percentage by the number of people that you need to acquire in order to like have a, reach your yearly like salary goals, right? So that whole process we talked about is forecasting. It's the process by which trainers are, managers will do this for you sometimes, which is sometimes rough. They're like, here's your quota. Managers apply specific percentages based on previous performances to predict future sales or other measurable outcomes, such as the number of training sessions. So this is like a conversation I've had to have with my managers multiple times, because again, I tend to focus on client retention, is where like, my boss will be like, hey, everybody, we're trying to get like this level of, session, we're trying to get this type of commission bonuses this month. And I would always kind of point out to my boss, it's like, hey man, like I got no sales coming down the pipe. This person's got like 16 sessions left. This person's got this many, like a lot of sessions left. And it's like, but you are going to see me working a lot of hours this week, So sometimes like your forecasting isn't always just based on, how many sales you're doing. It can also very much be based on how many sessions you're training. But in order to be able to successfully figure this out, you must accurately determine your closing percentage, right? For every 20 people that you talk to, how many signed up for training? Was it 3? So then we got, 3 out of, hey, number lock, 3 out of 20, right? That's a 15% closing percentage, right? If it's 2 out of 20, that's 10%, right? Like whatever your closing percentage is, doesn't really matter, guys. Your closing percentage could be 1%, and you can still very much build a successful personal training business out of that. It's just going to take a little bit longer to like get those clients, right? You need 10 clients, 1%, you're going to have to talk to 100 people, but it's not like there's not 100 people in the gym. Usually gyms have, memberships well over 1,000 folks. So that is your forecasting, right? And there's a couple other things like you can see here, these some other terms that you're never really going to see, which is like show percentage versus closing percentage. These are similar to what we talked about yesterday. Your show percentage is the percentage of people who actually booked their complimentary assessments. By the way, I know it sounds crazy. Literally this sounds crazy to me, but people don't use their free assessment. It's like, it's free. You get to learn something cool. Like, why the heck would you not? Oh, right, whatever. Different folks, different strokes. But yeah, like your show percentage is the people who have actually booked their assessments, come for a complimentary assessment. And then your closing percentage are the people who, after that assessment, actually signed up for training sessions, and those are slightly different. If you're working the floor and you're talking to someone, it's like, have you done your assessment? And they say, yeah. And you're like, well, I'll still offer you like, if you'd like to do like a 1-hour assessment with me, I'm still trying to grow my business. But if they say yes to that, it's still part of your show percentage. You approach somebody, they said yes. If they sign up for training, great. That's going to boost your closing percentage. If they didn't, it'll lower it out. But that's what you got there. You've got a show percentage and a closing percentage. One is how often you're showing people stuff, and number 2 is how often they're actually buying it. So when you are doing your face-to-face prospecting, right? You should definitely have the mindset that you're basically in sort of a perpetual, we talked about job interviews earlier in this course, right? You are basically in the perpetual job interview. And this goes for if you're working in a gym or if you are working for yourself. If you're working for yourself, you are constantly, trying to reach out to friends, family, getting contact information from their friends, their family. You're trying to figure out, reach as many people as possible, and promote and sell your services, right? So when we think about the idea of prospecting, it seems really scary because it's like, oh man, I got to go out and talk to people, you know, and that can be kind of like, you know, nerve-wracking sometimes. But again, you want to be actively pursuing this. This is something you want to be doing. Like, you know, this should be the most exciting part of your job, because it means that like you potentially get to help someone reach their fitness goals. So there's a lot of different versions of face-to-face prospecting. There's working the floor. We've already talked about that to death. There's offering suggestions. Hanging out the front desk is actually not bad. You know, being at the front desk and like helping the front desk like check new members in. Not a bad idea. You know, it might lead to a conversation, especially like the front desk knows literally everything that's going on at the gym. They are the most connected people because they literally are having conversations with people as they walk in. And so like, if they're like, this person's been talking about getting training, right? And you build a good relationship with that front desk person, you know, that's a good way for you to like meet potential new clients. You know, instruct proper technique if you happen to, you know, be walking the floor and you want to show somebody how to do something. Obviously there's new member orientations. Like if you want to be there during like, you know, the salesperson while they're giving like an orientation, that's great. Handing out towels again at the front desk. All of these are really, really good prospecting right now. On the flip side, like what if you are working for yourself? Well, there's social media, right? You can always post up on social media about things that you are doing, you know, related to fitness and, you know, any specials that you might be offering. Emailing, that's another one, right? When Mo first moved down here, when we first hired Mo, one of the things he did is he went to like Kinko's or something like that. He got on like Canvas. He literally went like, let's see here, Canvas. Nope, not Canvas, Canva. Sorry. And he said personal training flyer. Oh, come on. He like got on here or somewhere. Maybe he just did like Photoshop. I'm not 100% sure. But he got on here and basically made like a flyer, you know, really quick. Really, really kind of simple one, you know. Why are these all horizontal? Business card. Business flyer. What? These all look horizontal as well. Whatever. This is literally, I don't know why I'm being a perfectionist here. You know, something like this, and then just print it out. He went to, you know, Kinko's or whatever, and just like printed this out, put his contact information, printed a bunch of them, and then he went into his building that he moved into, and he put one flyer in each and every one of the little mailboxes that were in there to let people know that he had moved into the building. And, you know, got a couple calls, got a couple new clients. And that was like one of the first things he did when he first started working at Sochi, because he had moved out here from Virginia. So, you know, that is an example of prospecting as well. Or just welcome emails. If you have like a large email list, sending people saying like, hey, just so you know, like I'm offering this type of personal training services, right? Maybe you decide to go to like an organized event, especially like a fun run, like a race. If you go to like a Spartan race or something like that, great way to prospect. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can, you know, get your name out there and start sort of interacting with people doing your prospecting, right? The more people you talk to, guys, and the more people you tell your services about, the more clients you're going to get. It really is that simple, you know? Again, even with a 1% closing rate, which no one's going to have 1%. That's crazy low. Now, there is also professional networking. This is another really effective tool that you've got at your disposal. You should absolutely be building a professional referral network. Remember, we can absolutely talk about nutrition and educate about the general information related to nutrition, but we are not dietitians. Dietitians are allowed to prescribe diets. We are not, right? So there's definitely a distinct difference between those things. So have a dietitian in your back pocket. Get to know someone. My friend Rebecca is a dietitian. She is fantastic. And whenever I've got someone who really needs like dietary help and actually needs to have it prescribed, I refer them to her. And she, every time somebody has like a fitness related question, refers them back to me. So that is, I don't even have to do prospecting. This is something that sort of like rolls in naturally. I used to know a freaking life coach, but they moved. That was like another one. They were like a therapist that I would often sort of interact with as well. But the more of a professional network you have, related to like health and wellness, look at how many, you guys, let's see here. Oh, actually, yeah, Dalen. I was like, I gotta have one massage therapist in here. We always have at least one personal trainer and massage therapist, right? Like, I've got a million massage therapists, chiropractors in my phone. These are all people that I can refer clients to. And, I'm the personal trainer that hopefully they're going to think of when, they want to refer like a new client to me. So professional networking is really helpful as well. You can build these relationships by, learning, by going out and meeting new people. They got a couple weird examples in here. Me personally, I'm like, keep it for the most part to the health and wellness industry. But you can see like Chamber of Commerce meetings, if you're going to those, or like charitable events, public speaking engagements, things like that. Those are all examples of like, professional networking. Like I said, I'd probably focus more on like health and wellness related stuff directly. And then if you're working in a gym, another sort of auto prospecting tool, right? And by the way, do you notice how like a lot of these prospecting is a very active process when you're working the gym floor, but look at how many of these things are automatic, like I was talking about earlier, right? We want to design stuff in our life that will lead to our success without having to work. You want people to call you rather than you have to like go out into the universe and find them, like if you've got like referrals, they're going to reach out to you, Here's another example, cross-departmental interaction. So like I said, get to know the front desk guys. They are the most well-connected people in the gym. They know everything there is to know. So get to know like the people at the front desk, get to know the people on the sales team. Remember, they're signing people up for gym memberships. And then as part of that gym membership, they get a free fitness assessment. If you're everyone's favorite trainer, you're going to be the one who gets those fitness assessments. You know what I mean? So get to know the training staff, the sales staff, develop rapport with them as well. And there's great ways to do this, like explain, how your assessment process is maybe different from someone else's, what that looks like. Take the sales team, take them through it, show them your assessment, Sales team is just like anybody else. They want to get fit as well. So I would constantly, be over there at the front desk and show people stuff and educate people and talk about stuff and like, just shoot the breeze and build rapport with them as well. Offer to be like, hey, next time you've got like a tour and you're signing them up, and if you see me standing over there, like wave me over, I'll come over and answer any questions, and then, you are sort of tag teaming this and you're working with like the sales team. And then this person who maybe hasn't even necessarily signed up for their gym membership yet, if, you talk to the salesperson brings you over and they're like, so this is Thomas, and he's going to, take you through your fitness assessment if you sign up for your gym membership. And then the way that assessment works, Thomas, why don't you tell us about it? And then like, you can kind of chat about it. And suddenly they're like, wow, yeah, well, I'm definitely going to sign up for the gym membership because I'm interested in getting that free assessment. And then there's also all of your former prospects. We talked about following up yesterday, making sure that like, if you've got a client who, or, a potential client, and maybe you took them through a fitness assessment, maybe they were a little lukewarm on the whole thing, they didn't really care for it. You still have their contact information. There's nothing wrong about like reaching out to them. Like I said, you can see here, they kind of changed their tune. I like the 30, 60, 90 timeline. I like to reach out in 30 days, reach out in 60 days, reach out in 90 days. Yesterday, someone was asking, they're like, how do you know when it's exactly 30 days? I'll be honest, guys, I don't. I don't actually. I do follow a 30, 60, 90 time frame, but what I would do is it was just always on like, I did it on paydays. So I would do it on either the 5th or the 20th. And I would just do it every month. And so, that's making sure that it was like, and then I would just put a check mark next to people. That, check mark 1 meant that I'd contacted them once. So it was probably more like 37 days and then 60 and then 90, but that's, to me, that was much easier. If you want to be really, really, really specific about it, there's nothing wrong with like checking that book every single day. You check it every day. You can be like, okay, I need to reach out to that person, and that person tomorrow, and then social media is a really great way as well. I know that like it's so weird to me because I wouldn't do this personally, but reaching out to people on social media, through like private messaging, DMs, things like that, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. That's a good way to get in touch with people as well. Again, follow up with like your prospects. So any questions on any of that prospecting stuff so far? We're going to kind of pivot into our last little bit here. Feeling good. All right. So one thing that we need to do, we also need to build rapport with all of our clients. I know we've talked about this plenty, but here's sort of a go-to way to build rapport, right? First, ask for their name and use their name. People love to hear you say, it shows that you are listening to them and you're actually paying attention. People like it. Use their name, There's a great movie with Brendan Fraser. It's called Blast in the Past, about this guy who like his parents like went into a bunker in the 50s. So he has all these like 50s ideals. And he talks about, he's like, my mom always said, like, the faster you can use someone's name, the more likely you are to remember it. And like, that is true. It's great. Do that. It'll build rapport with someone very quickly. So ask for their name, use their name as quickly as you can. Find out where they're from. That's a great way to sort of start small talk. Find out if they're like a local here in LA, or if they moved out here to pursue acting, like every person who moves out here. Figure out where they live. It's like, are they in the area? Like, are they local, right? Why'd they pick this gym? Maybe they're doing it because it's close to their work. Maybe they're doing it because it's close to their house. Learn about their family. That's always a good conversation starter. Asking, if they've got kids or, family or whatever. What they do for a living is a good example. These are all just the very classic, like, small talk, right? Like, how about that weather? What are their hobbies? And then I love this at the very end here. We got one pretty deep question, because all of this is very surface, but then ask them where they see themselves in the future. That's a great question to build rapport. And it's like, what are you trying to get out of this gym membership? Like, what are you so excited about? When you roll out of bed in the morning, what really kind of gets you excited about coming to the gym? And if they're like, nothing, I hate coming to the gym. And it's like, all right, well then why are you here? Like, what's, you're here, obviously, like, if you dislike it so much, what's driving you out of bed? What drove you through the door? And they'll come up with, they'll say, well, again, I don't like working out, but I want to look a certain way, feel a certain way, perform a certain way, so those are kind of just really great ways to establish rapport. Now, you can absolutely lose rapport with someone as quickly as you built it. One of the best ways to do that is to not be an active listener. If your eyes are wandering, you're looking around, not paying attention, you're on your phone, doing this kind of stuff, not hearing what they're saying. If you interrupt too often, that's another really bad one. You want to be an active listener, guys. You want to try to make eye contact, ask questions related to what they are saying, but make sure that you are not interrupting them in order to do that. That's one of the best ways to tell if someone's actually like listening to you. Ask a question, say, so what you're saying is, and then you say back whatever it is that they said. You just sort of parrot back to them. And then, just acting disinterested, like fidgeting with your clothes, hands in your pockets, stuff like that. So always try to be as professional as possible. The best ways to do that, ensure that you are arriving 5 minutes early, make sure you're dressed for the job. Don't lose sight of the goal. Remember, you are there to, help these people reach their goals, right? Don't lose sight of that. This isn't, you're not just showing up just for the sake of getting your paycheck. And the minute you start doing that, you're really going to lose like a lot of effectiveness. Always put your focus on the client themselves. And, you are there to sort of inspire that client, right? Tell them inspiring stories, ways that other clients have worked through their problems. You're trying to like inspire this person to continue working out. And there's a lot of ways to do that, right? The more dependable you are, when someone reaches out to you, getting back to them quickly, the more you have integrity about like, making sure that you were saying like, hey, you got to show up for your session on time, like, or, in the same way that I have to show up on time. Being empathetic, right? If they say they're struggling with something, trying to identify that something in yourself as well. And so like, I don't know exactly what that's like, but I went through this that was very similar. I can't imagine how hard that is for you, right? That's a very empathetic statement. Always be honest, obviously. And then you're just trying to be a role model, like practice what you preach. Don't walk into your sessions talking about how, you went to a bar and got, really crazy with your friend that you haven't seen since college. And now like you're super hungover. Don't talk about stuff like that. Like that's not going to help your client in any capacity, be professional. And don't get me wrong, like I walk the line of being unprofessional all the time. I like to be as authentic, to me, I place a lot of value on being very authentic with my clients. Like I want them to know like the very real version of myself, like everybody has like different versions of themselves, like you have like your work voice, you have your school voice, and then you have like your, I try to keep those all the same person. I really, I want my clients to feel comfortable around me. But at the same time, like I would never talk about things that are, going to discredit me as like a professional, because that's only going to hurt, my cause. I'm not gonna be a role model to my clients, So at the very end here, let's say you've done all this, right? You've built rapport, you're talking to somebody, you're in the middle of your fitness assessment, and then the end of your assessment, you're going to go through your sales pitch. You'll be like, all right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at some of our training packages here and see which one you'd be most interested in signing up for. And so now we are going to look at how to sort of overcome any of the objections, right? So these are different tools in your tool belt that will help you sign people up for training. So there's going to be a lot of objections out there. Not enough time, not enough money. Those are really big ones. The amount of effort, right? The fear of failure. Those are all things that will often, be used as like an objection for why they shouldn't sign up for personal training. So when you are trying to change someone's opinion on something like this, the first thing you want to do is you want to start by validating what they say. So you're going to express to them in a meaningful way that you understand their feelings, right? So one of my favorite things to say is, I hear you. I love to point out the fact that like, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. It illustrates that you aren't necessarily arguing with them. Like you are in agreement about this, right? If they say like, I'm just afraid I don't have enough time to do this right now because I'm really busy in my life, and so what you want to start with is like, yeah, I get it, man. Like this is going to be, this is definitely going to be like a time commitment. You are absolutely, you have to be committed to coming into the gym, multiple times in order to be able to kind of reach your goals. It's going to take time and it's going to take effort. So I definitely hear what you're saying. So, or here's a financial one, right? I can understand your concern. $1,500 is a big investment for anybody, a lot of times people are going to start to try to like overcome your objections by arguing with the person and sort of saying the opposite. It's like, well, it's not that expensive, right? Or they'll say like, oh, it's only an hour a day, right? Like, a lot of times people will sort of be antagonistic right away. It's not going to make people feel comfortable. People do not like to argue, no matter what people say. Some people are like, I love to argue. No. So you want to start by validating what they say, like get on their side, be like, yeah, it is a lot of time, it is a big amount of effort. That's okay. Validate what they are saying. But now the second step you want to do before we start to sort of try to turn this around, you want to isolate the problem and really make sure that you and the client are both very clear about like which objection is really holding them back. So now you want to isolate it and clarify in order to get to their true objection. So what we mean by that is like you are going to ask some closed-ended questions on purpose in order to figure out very specifically what it is. So this last person, they were struggling with like the cost, right? So it said, other than affordability, is there anything else that would prevent you from starting the program today? So now you ask that version, right? You isolate the problem. This is a closed-ended question. It's got a yes or no answer. And they're like, no, it's just the money, right? Great. So we know that price is the only thing. Now you can figure out like how to move forward. You could say, well, let's look at a different package that might be a little bit more affordable. Or, if my client, the example I was giving, like someone's like, I just don't feel like I have enough time. And it's like, so if you had like an extra hour every single day, would you consider like starting this program? It's like, oh yeah, if I had an extra hour a day, absolutely. It's like, okay, so it sounds like time is really your only concern. So we're isolating it, right? We are getting this problem all alone so that then we don't have to attack everything they might be thinking of that is holding them back. We can look at this one thing and figure out how to solve this one problem. If the objection like changes during this isolation process, you go back and validate that, by the way. Like if they say, well, yeah, I'm concerned about the time it's going to take. And then, I'm worried. I don't really like working out. I'm worried I'm not going to be able to put enough effort in. Right. So now they got two problems. You go back to the first one. It's like, I get that. Yeah. I mean, it's always hard to do things that you don't, want to do. Then we're going to get into the resolving here in just a second. So it's tempting to kind of follow those things up with the antagonistic, approach, right? If they say, well, I don't have enough money. And it's like, well, we can find a more affordable option. That's great. Like you just, found a solution to the problem, but you jumped right to it, right? We want to make sure we are going through these steps. It's really going to help. So validate their concerns, isolate the problems. Now you've got clarity and you're like, okay, it really is only time. It really is only price. And then now we're going to remind the client why they even showed up to the gym today, right? So you're going to use the evidence that we gathered during the assessment or, anything that our client told us about like what their goals are. And you're going to use that and say, to remind them why they even considered showing up for, the gym membership, why they're even like walking through the door, right? So you can see in this version, right, it says, as we've been talking, you've mentioned a few times that your health and well-being to be around for your children is a priority. Do you feel that training would be worth investing the money to assist with that, right? So now like we're reminding, it's like, well, you said what's important to you is that like, you want to get like fit for this wedding. You said you really want to get, in really good shape so you can start playing pickup soccer again. You said that you really want to get in shape because you're trying to get ready for beach season, right? Whatever it happens to be. If it's money, you would say, we would ask them, it's like, all right, well, do you feel like, the amount of money you would spend is worth, reaching that goal? Do you think it's worth, getting this return on your investment? If it's a time situation, I would say, yeah, I get, if I was going all the way through this, I'd say I'd validate by saying, I get it. You're right. Like, it's a big time commitment for anybody, losing weight takes time. It takes effort for sure. But would you say that like, that's really the only thing that's like kind of freaking you out is like making enough time? And then if they say yes, I would remind them, it's like, well, remember, like you said that like the biggest thing you want to do is like, you want to get, ready for like beach season, right? Like, that is definitely going to take time, but like, do you think that like, if you were to invest an hour a day into this, that is worth like how you're going to, the confidence that you're going to have to look a certain way, that's what you kind of have to ask yourself. And so if they say, once we've done that, we're going to sort of resolve the problem here at the very end. Right now, we're going to offer the solution. Now we're going to say, okay, it's not necessarily that you have to come into the gym every day. This is where you're going to tackle like your strength training because that's what we have access to. But if your goal is just to burn some energy, there's walking during your lunch breaks, I'm here to help guide you in ways that you can burn as many calories as possible. You know, like that's my job. My job is to help you figure out like how to make this a lifestyle, not just a gym membership. You know, that's me trying to resolve like the time problem. If it's financial, right? It's like maybe it's something like, what if we were able to create a package that would fit within your budget? So now they reduce the session time to 30-minute sessions, or maybe they use like a post-dated check. Maybe they go into group training exercises instead. Or maybe you figure out a way to like reduce the prices, right? You go to your boss and say like, hey, can I offer this person a 20% discount? If you're willing to do that, right? There's a lot of different solutions out there, guys. If you go through this 4-step process, that's how we're going to sort of like find those solutions for people, right? We validate their concerns. I hear what you're saying. We isolate the problem. What you're saying is that this is really the only thing holding you back. We remind them why they're here, but this is what you want to do, right? And then we resolve that problem by saying, well, what if we tried this approach instead? If you go through these first, if you jump straight to the resolving section, it sounds like you are arguing with them, and nobody wants to be argued with. So by going through this, you're on the same team, you know? And that's it, guys. It's so short today. I tried to stall a little bit because I knew this PowerPoint is so freaking brief. Do you guys have any questions today? Anything I can answer?
Okay.
Nothing? An answer? You guys want to talk about trivia? No. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kill the recording. Yeah, we're going to meet up tomorrow, guys.